I am in Los Angeles right now, and I went to the Lakers-Clippers game, the last game ever between the two teams in crypto in crypto/Staples Center in Los Angeles. It was, for like 3/4, the game sucked. I'm not going to lie. If you were in the game, it was so boring. The crowd wasn't in it. You know, Clippers crowds aren't great at all. So if the Lakers aren't doing well, it was like a pro Lakers crowd, as you can imagine. It was my first time ever like being in this iteration of this rivalry and ever seen these two teams match up in person. And then like the Clippers go on up 21, and then the fourth quarter starts, and LeBron is like, I'm just going to take Daniel Tice every time on a switch all the time, every time I see him. And I'm going to go to the hole one time to keep him honest, but I'm just going to take step back threes on Daniel Tice every single time and run action around them. Had the Clippers defense in a spin cycle. The Lakers win, and their best win of the season. And the Clippers probably worse, like exclamation point on their worst probably stretch of the season right now. I tried to broach this topic to Raja before the pod, like in the 2 minutes before the pre-pod after he yelled at me, and then into this, and I gave him the topics, and he was like, this doesn't make sense. Does this game matter, Raja? Does this game even matter? Does this game give us a clue as to what these two teams can be or not be in the next few months? This is where we are in the NBA season, by the way.
Well, I mean, the game matters for sure, right? Because, you know, the result, I think, for the Lakers, you know, specifically could be kind of a little springboard point for them right now. You know what I mean? Like it could, you know, that feeling, those vibes, that energy can propel you a little bit. So it matters in that regard. I don't think, I mean, while it is a devastatingly bad loss for the Clippers in the moment, I don't think that conversely it's one of those losses that derails your season. You know, if I'm saying it could help the Lakers and spur them on with a little energy kick right now, I don't think it derails the Clippers season, but it's embarrassing. Like nobody wants to lose like that. I was tapped into the game here and there. I keep coming back to it. This is 18, 17. And, it just, to your point, it wasn't a great game to watch until late. I would just say this. I don't think it matters broad picture, larger, picture type of vibe, because if the Lakers have to have that effort from LeBron James at the point in his career at which he is to steal a win with a home crowd, while I'm telling you it could be good in the immediate next few games in terms of energy and stuff like that, that's still, I don't believe, to be a sustainable model for them to win a championship. If he's got to do that and put on like that just to beat the Clippers without Paul George and Zubats, then I don't believe that that's sustainable for them. It's a great win. It's another great, I think LeBron's biggest comeback, something he'd never done before, and
biggest Lakers comeback since I think in 20 years too.
All that is dope. I don't mean to downplay any of that, and I won't. It just doesn't really change for me what I see the Lakers as in terms of trying to win a championship when it comes to the heavy hitters in the NBA. And then the Clippers, I mean, how fair is it to judge a loss like that and judge trajectory after a loss like that when you're playing without two of your major pieces?
Yeah. I think the other biggest thing is and this is what I want to kind of pick your brain on, is this time in the regular season, obviously we made the joke of there's nothing to talk about, and it's not that, it's just, we're just in we're in the dog days of the NBA for everyone. And, I've been around, been in LA for the last few days, and I went to Clippers practice the other day, and Ty Lue was just basically talking about how much he needs, at this point in the season with the Clippers, they're having a lot more practice time, a lot more shoot around time, because they need to get back in gear. And it feels like they're dealing with them after that huge run that they had when Westbrook went to the bench, and and James Harden just kind of went off and just been the facilitator role. Ever since the All-Star break, they have kind of lagged back into the season. There's two trains of thoughts right there. I know that the Clippers are like, damn, we wish there wasn't an All-Star break so we could keep our rhythm. And there's always two types of teams. There's a team that just gets back on the ground running after a All-Star weekend, and then there's a team like the Clippers who are trying to find their footing. Like, what is the genesis for both starts after an All-Star break when, on one hand, you want to hit the ground running, other hand, that might not be a realistic. How do you navigate through that in these next, as March comes tomorrow?
How do you navigate through it? I don't know. The genesis of it is unpredictable. You don't really ever know how you're going to come back from an All-Star break. Quite frankly, that's why good teams that are playing great don't want to stop playing, and bad teams that can't find it want the break, because on the other side of it, we could come back either way, and it doesn't serve the team that's playing well, and it could serve the team that's playing poorly. All you can do is what Ty Lue's talking about doing. Look, we got to get back in the gym. To some degree in the NBA, when you are rolling, it's on cruise control. To the point that you kind of touched on with Ty Lue saying they're practicing more. Man, when things are humming and you're in a stretch of a lot of travel and a lot of games and you're in the meat of the season, there's very little real practice, tinkering, and work that's going on. This is basically on cruise control. We have a few tweaks. Sure, we're going to get in and shoot the ball a little bit and go over game plans, but we're not really going to be structurally dealing with much. So this is working. You know, we're playing well. And so I think if a team comes out of the gates after the break and they are not playing well and they are in a little bit of a funk, it does behoove you to go back and start to hoop a little bit more, start to really, maybe while you can't go all the way back to a training camp style practice for the length of time that you were doing it in training camp, you could maybe abbreviate that type of practice a few times, get guys in and out of drills that are more grueling, if you will, and just to kind of refresh, hit the reset button, those thoughts, those mantras, those type of attentions to detail. And for a team that comes back out playing better and hitting their stride in a way that they maybe weren't right before the break, I mean, you've got to look at your season ahead of you, figure out where you are positionally in the NBA. Are there realistic opportunities if we're a middle of the pack type of team to climb up, and get in one of those first four spots? Is there an opportunity if we're already up there to get to the first? If we're out of it, can we sneak into the play in? Like let's kind of figure out where we are. And you're just trying to ride that. You're trying to keep the good mojo running. There's that team is in a spot where it's not going to need a whole lot. Like if it ain't broke, don't fix it. So you want games to come as quickly as they can come.
Yeah. I mean, all this we're saying, right, with the Clippers, they got the Wizards on Friday night. Like, it's going to be fine. They're probably going to blow the Wizards out. I want to get back to LeBron real quick. To your point about him having to summon this type of effort and honestly, it was a home game. There were so many Laker fans in attendance at Crypto, even though it was a designated Clippers game. But there were a lot of times where it felt like a game, honestly, in the fourth quarter where LeBron just got hot, because there was a lot of times where what made LeBron so devastating in his early career, even the mid-career, even up until like maybe 6-7 years ago, is that he was so devastating going to the cup. And that threat of him going to the cup really just put people on edge. And I don't know how closely you were watching last night, but he was settling for a lot of threes. And there were a couple of times where he would just go for the hat trick and shoot a long three and then miss very badly. This was in the fourth quarter in the midst of this run, and just put his hands on his knees, like looking very, very tired, just to summon that energy. And this was a regular season game in February, right? So this wasn't playoff intensity by any stretch of the imagination. I just don't know, whenever I see the Lakers, it's one of those things where, and I see this with a couple other teams, where on paper, you're like, yeah, they can do this. Like when you look at LeBron do that in person, you're like, man, this dude is obviously generational. This is crazy. Wow, what a performance. And then when you take a look back, you're like, I don't know if he could summon this again. I don't know how many times he could summon these types of things. He's in year 21. And I don't see he's going to need help that he's never going to get, point blank. And that's just where we're at right now. So we're going to continue to get these types of performances, like maybe periodically, but not sustained enough for a 7-game series.
Yeah, I mean, that's very unlikely. And I think that if LeBron were to hear this clip, and he really listened to what was being said, he would agree. Yeah, sure, he can do that, man. Sure, at any given moment, with fresh legs, if you said go be the best player on the planet, he could summon that. Now, it looks different to your point. I've been saying that for years. It's not shoulders by your defender. That's a really weird thing when that happens to you. When you're like, okay, I'm going to go to my go-to. It works 99.7% of the time, and you hit the gas, and there's a chest right in front of you. You're like, what the fuck? Like that, no one's ever right there. That happened, though, a couple years ago to LeBron. Like, so he's been figuring out and morphing into more of a jump shooter at times because it's not as easy. And you couple that with everything becomes a little harder when you're older, and that's a bad combination of things. But on any given night with fresh legs, you ask him to be the best player on the planet, he's either going to do it or come really, really close to doing it. But that's not NBA basketball. You don't get, you're not getting 4 days of rest in between every game. Not even in the regular season. Certainly not,
if
as the playoffs.
If the NBA played 50 games a year, I think the Lakers would win the title.
Honest to God, I would give them a much better shot.
Yeah.
I would give them a much better shot. Now, you would also then have to tell me that in the playoffs, you were going to stretch the rest out more. Because that's what it comes down to, too. Like, it's the amount of games over the course of the season that take their toll. And then it's when you're at your most withered as an athlete, because you're never as strong and as fresh and as healthy as you are right when the season starts. So you get through even 50 games, and that's mileage. Those are nicks and bruises and tweaks and slight tears. And when you are now on top of those 50 games playing, 7 games over the course of I don't know what they fit 7 games into now, it becomes really, really hard to recover. Like recovery is very difficult. And so I would just say that even LeBron would tell you that if he had to do that for them to win, first of all, it's him making that many threes in a quarter to save you. That's not a sustainable model to begin with.
No, not at all.
That's not. He
just got hot. Like I'm saying, he just got hot, man, at the right time. That doesn't happen.
And that's cool. That's great. Like, again, one of the greatest players ever to play the game, can do that sometimes. But to have to win with that in and of itself isn't sustainable. But to have it be LeBron in any capacity, whether it's going to the rack or making all those threes or what have you, having him be the guy that puts the team on his back and carries them home to wins just by willing it to happen in the fourth quarter of games in any shape, form, or fashion, that's not sustainable in terms of winning a championship for the Lakers with LeBron at this point in his career. It's just not.